Hello everybody, welcome. Today in this video, it's all about making the right kind of decision. And I know this is a subject that a lot of people struggle with. You might be one of them. I know I did for years and years. But really getting into this today and utilizing the principles and the tools will help guide you in making those big life decisions that we are all up against. So, welcome in. If you are here live, let me know that you are here. We're going to be spending some time today on life decisions and how to make better ones, and some tools, some insights, some strategies that will help you in making those decisions that probably will end up shaping your fate and your future. And so this is important. It's something that we can't ignore. A lot of people delay decision making because it just becomes too uncomfortable, and we are wrongfully looking at what decisions really are. And so we either procrastinate, we let ourselves be consumed by fear or other factors that prevents us from making the right kind of decisions. If you're here live, let me know. Love to hear from you. And if you're watching the replay, I'd love to hear from you as well. So the word decision comes from the Latin roots de, meaning from, and caedere, meaning to cut. That means when you're making committed decisions, you're actually cutting yourself away from any other possibility. And when you start looking at it that way, it starts becoming really apparent that most people don't really make decisions. They express hopes and wishes, and they verbalize what they would like to do, but they actually don't understand this principle in any great depth. And so results just don't show up. And Napoleon Hill wrote an entire chapter on that subject alone. And when you look at people who really make great things happen in their lives, they are honest with themselves and they make great decisions. The truth is, there are no good or no bad decisions, they're just decisions. But you're up against them and you have to make them. And if you fail to make decisions fast and promptly, you will delay success in your life. And today, getting into this will help you speed up your manifestation and create more real magic, better results faster, because you're going to become a very proficient decision maker. Hey, Megan, good to see you. Hey, Sina, welcome in. So there's no right and wrong decisions. They're just decisions, and you have to make them. And those kind of decisions that will move your life forward to the next level are also the ones that sometimes are the hardest to make. And why is that? Well, I'll get back to that. First, let me tell you a story about some decisions I had to make that shaped my fate and my future in a radically different way. So I had spent 20 years in the entertainment industry, producing and performing magic on television, cruise ships, and so on and so forth. And it had become very shallow. I never felt fulfilled doing it. And I kept asking myself, what difference did this make? Did the audience leave educated, fulfilled, better equipped to lead a better life? And the truth is, no, they didn't. It was entertainment. They left asking themselves, how did you do the trick? And who cared how I did the trick? So I kept asking myself, like, what's the purpose here? And I had studied personal development. I had gotten into a book, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, years prior. And because my life started to shift radically when I started working with my mind, and I started studying personal development, spirituality, quantum physics, everything that I could get my hands on that helped me understand more about me. And so that desire within me to create something different became bigger and bigger. And maybe you can relate to that, to a point where I knew that what I had was what I didn't want anymore. I knew that I had to let go, make a decision to let go of entertainment. And all I wanted to do was get into personal development, and I wanted to learn from the best in the world. Can you recognize being in a situation where maybe you have the right job, it did work out well, it's all good, fine and dandy, but it didn't give you any satisfaction anymore? Can you recognize becoming aware that what you have is what you don't want? And it's time to make a decision, a big decision maybe. It's scary. Fear comes in, a lot of other factors comes in. Did for me too. I had no idea how I was going to do this, but I knew that I wanted to go to work in personal development. And I made a decision. I was sitting in the dressing room on a cruise ship in the Gulf of Mexico. We had just finished a show on stage. I had just made two big Harley Davidson motorcycles appear on stage and with dancers, and it was all big and beautiful. But I went back to the dressing room, looked myself in the mirror, and told myself it was going to be the last show I did. I made a decision. I made a clean cut. I had no idea how to move forward and what to do, but I just knew what I had was what I didn't want. And so there's other factors that comes into play when you make decisions, because you have to first empty the plate before you can serve yourself a new main course. My life was full. I was busy producing and performing these shows, and I knew for me to embrace something bigger and better, I had to first make a decision to let go of what I had. Same with you. If your life is full, you have to first let go. And that's hard when you can't see the path forward. So, one thing I learned is when you focus on the better, it becomes easier to let go of the lesser, what is in your life right now. And the truth is, when you decide, your doubt dies. When you make an irrevocable, committed decision to what you really want, the doubt, the ambivalence, the fear dies. And something else happens. When you decide, success replies. Success starts coming your way. So what happens? You start measuring what you can win all of a sudden in those decisions. What is it that you really want? And there's a spiritual foundation to this, and we'll get into that in a minute. But when you really place your emphasis on where you're going and what you really want to get out of life, now you're making your goal your decision anchor. But if you don't have a clearly defined goal, you're not really deciding from anywhere. You're just sort of, one day takes the next, excuse me, and you aren't really making any great progress. So you have to have a decision anchor. And that needs to be your goal. Without it, nothing great ever happens. So for me, I knew I was going to get to work in personal development. I knew I was going to work with the best in the world. I didn't wonder if that was going to be the case. I knew. I had used auto-suggestion on myself for so long, I lived in that new reality. I didn't think about being in personal development. I didn't think about working with the best in the world. I knew I was already there. And again, there's a spiritual component to this that we're going to get into in a minute. But I just want you to understand that you have to have a clearly defined goal, and that needs to be your decision anchor. Otherwise, nothing happens. So for those of you that are live, if you're watching the replay, think back to a time when you were faced with a tough decision or a big decision or something that wasn't easy. What happened? Did you hesitate? Did you feel fear? Did you doubt? Did you worry? Maybe you felt pressure from other people. You should be doing this and that. Can you recognize that? Can you recognize that almost analysis paralysis stage where you're just paralyzed all of a sudden because you keep analyzing what you should do and what other people say and current results, current resources? That's really when people get stuck, because we're so earthbound. Back to that spiritual foundation to this. You and I are living on three planes. We're a spiritual being, we live in a physical body, and we're gifted with a mind. The mind goes to the physical right away and starts measuring what we can lose. We don't go to our source of supply, which is the spiritual side of ourselves. But when you do that, everything shifts. It becomes so much easier to make decisions when you go to the spiritual side of you, infinite supply. And just ask yourself, what do I really want? That's the only question. What do I really want? And do I really want this, whatever it is that you're going to decide on? So there are three reasons why people don't make decisions that are going to benefit them. One, they start measuring what they can lose, and today you'll get a technique that will help you change that around. Two, they focus on the resources. I cannot because. And whatever follows because is, again, their earthbound nature that goes to resources first. That is never the real reason why you can't. You can't because you're limiting the inflow in your mind of ideas. That's where it begins. You're limiting your conscious use of your mental tools. or actually, I should say, you're unconsciously limiting the use of your mental tools. So once you start using the higher side of your personality, making decisions around the physical plane becomes so much easier because you realize there's a law at play, the perpetual transmutation of energy. How could I decide to be healthy when I looked at a blood test that said I was sick? How could I decide to be working with the best in personal development when I was broke and unhappy? How could I decide to live financial and personal freedom on all levels when I couldn't even afford rent? How can you make those kind of decisions? Well, you do that because you go to your source of supply, not to the evidence of the senses. And the third reason why most people don't make the big life decisions that ultimately could change everything for them is, again, because they're earthbound. They don't use the spiritual nature of them as the foundation to make decisions from. Those are some of the reasons. Now, let's look at how we change that. Hey, Anita, good to see you. Welcome in. We're talking about how to make those big life decisions today. And we didn't send an email out on this because we've got so much going on at this moment that we just sort of went live here today, like we always do on Tuesdays at 9 a.m. So you're here because you know that we are here live, and that's wonderful. So let's look at a technique that will help you to do this in a more proficient way, because the fact is all successful people are proficient decision makers. And we have to realize that there's no universe, there's a multiverse where infinite realities coexist until you start making decisions around what you want. But we're not making a decision on a conscious level just by saying, I want this or I want that. You make a decision mentally by flipping your mind onto that frequency. You get emotionally involved in that idea, and you take physical action from that frequency. And no, you don't have to know the whole way, but you have to take the first step. You have to communicate to the universe and the multiverse around you that you are committed to that specific frequency that your goal represents. So in my case, I made a decision. I was going to work with the best in the world in personal development. I walked every day, priming myself, being very grateful for that idea. I practiced 8 hours a day in the mirror because I needed to prepare to be on stage with the best in the world. Now, did that make sense to people around me? Of course it didn't. Are you crazy? Shouldn't you just get a job? All that kind of stuff. So when you commit, you don't waver, you don't wonder, you know. And the truth is, you force the opportunity to come your way. Luck is what happens when preparedness meets opportunity. Well, guess what? When you commit, when you make a clearly committed decision and you commit to it and you act on it, you force opportunity to come your way. It will find you, it will knock on your door. People that don't make things happen in life, they don't make any kind of decisions. They hope to be in the right place at the right time. You're always in the right place at the right time. You just don't know you are. You're not on the frequency. So how can you receive it into your life? You miss the boat many times because you're not committed in your decision-making process. You hope, you wish, you wonder, you write the right affirmations, and then you have A plan, B plan, C plan, D plan, E plan, F plan, plans for everything else in case it fails. What if it doesn't work? Well, what if it does? The moment you have an alternative plan, you also communicate it to your subjective mind. You're not serious about plan A in the first place. And what do you think the universe is going to deliver to you? Ding dong. Confusion. Ding, 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 ding. We have a winner. Yes, that's what happens. The universe will deliver promptly, right on schedule, a ton of confusion because you're confused on a mental level if you're not making committed, irrevocable decisions. A lot of ideas back and forth, ambivalence. Ambivalence is the existence in your mind of multiple ideas at the same time. That's ambivalence, and it's very destructive. The physical body cannot be in that state for very long without breaking down. You start getting sick, getting illnesses. That's a symptom of a main cause. The main cause is there's not clarity in your mind. But with committed decisions, it creates clarity. How often have you felt making a decision that was weighing heavily on you, but you finally made it and the whole system relaxed? Can you recognize that? I know you can. So why don't we bring that concept into our life more frequently? Let's look at, so this is a question that often comes up. How do I separate intuition and fear in my decision-making process? How do I know that it's my intuition? How do I know that it's not fear preventing me from making a mistake? So let's look at that for a minute, and then we'll go into that technique that I promised earlier. So it all depends on what frequency you are in before you making the decision. If you're anchored in your goal and it feels wonderful, and you all of a sudden get this intuitive nudge that you should be doing something or acting on something or making a decision, that's your intuition. That's your higher side of your personality talking to you. It always feels good. It always feels right. And so that's what you want to pay attention to. You want to pay attention to the state that you're in. On the other hand, if you are worried, doubtful, and all of a sudden an idea hits your mind, that's usually triggered by an old paradigm, by fear. So the way to separate the two is really simple. It's have I been rooted in my goal? Have I been connecting to the frequency that equals my goal? And then I get all these ideas all of a sudden that I know I should be acting on. That's your intuition. If you have been worried the last week, looking at results that are just not where you want them, that's probably coming from scarcity. That's probably coming from fear. And so, what we want to learn is how to change our perception on the situation so fear releases. And now we're back to that spiritual principle. So there's 5 steps to it. That's a technique today for you to work with fear to make fear your best friend. So you have to realize when you're making decisions around quantum leap goals that are way beyond where you are now, it will set up an emotion called fear. If it didn't, you wouldn't be moving along very well. It just would be movements within your sort of realm of comfort. And so one, you have to have a clear goal established, a clearly defined goal, and that goal needs to be a quantum leap goal. It needs to be beyond where you've been before. And so now you commit yourself to 3 action steps that have to do with that goal. 3 things that if you were to act on them, it would move you radically in that decision. Massive action steps. Now, what follows should be some level of at least discomfort. Maybe not outright fear, but definitely discomfort. And that emotional state is what holds most people back from making the decisions they know they need to be making. And so the 3rd step is to describe that fear. Where is it? Usually in the gut region. Get it out on paper. Describe it. How does it look like? How does it feel like? In all its negativity, to just get it out on paper. And the 4th step to really working with fear in that decision-making process. And hey, if you just joined in, make sure you stay until the end and then go back and watch the replay. And then 4, what you want to do, well, let's rewind to 3. 3, you start analyzing the fear. When you have it out on paper and you ask yourself, is the problem in me, or is it on the paper? Is it in my way of looking at the situation? You will find you're using your imagination and your will against yourself. You are actually using the higher side of your personality ungoverned. You're using your imagination to invent pictures of some negative potential outcome in the future that is not here yet, but you're already there in your mind. That sets up an emotion, and that's where the fear usually comes from. So you're actually becoming aware now that you're utilizing your mental tools against you. How crazy is that when you think about it? It's ungoverned mental tools. We all have them. We have not been taught how to use them properly. We've been taught what to think, but not how to think. That's the biggest problem I believe we have. And so when you change your perception and you realize the fears here as a result of you using your mind against yourself, you start changing your perception. And the 5th step is writing out all the potential positives that happen as a result of you acting on those 3 ideas. When you have the list of potential positives, you will find they far outweigh the potential list of negatives. Now you've effectively switched your perception, going from what is the worst that can possibly happen to what is the best that could happen in the situation. Now you can move on with confidence, and you've changed your perception. But the whole foundation for all of this in decision making is, do I want it? The biggest mistake, and I mentioned it before, but I'm mentioning it again because I see people fall into this trap over and over and over again. On a conscious level, they know it, but they don't live it. I cannot because the resources aren't here. I'm too young. I'm too old. I'm too this. I'm too that. These are all conditions and circumstances. They have nothing to do with who you are and where you're going unless you allow it to fill your mind. So the foundation is for any good decision is, do I want it? And realize this, there's no bad decisions. There's no big decisions. They're just decisions. It's the same process you have to go through with any decision. So the decision about what you're going to be eating tonight is the same decision process you have to move through when you decide how you want to live, what house you want, what kind of income you want. It's the same thing. Do I want it? I had no idea how to get to work with the best in the world in personal development. No idea, but I made a decision that I was going to. I had no idea how to build a multi-million-dollar organization on a global scale that's helped over 10,000 people already improve the quality of their lives. No idea when I made the decision, but I decided I was going to do that. And so that's what I ended up doing. No idea how to create personal and financial freedom, but that's what I did. No idea how to manifest my multi-million-dollar home here in Miami. No idea, but I made a decision I was going to, so I did. No idea how to leave Denmark and rebuild my life from scratch here in the US. No idea, but I did. So the point is, if you look at resources before you make your first move, you're toast. It's not going to happen. Elon Musk had no idea how he was going to get the rocket to land on his own, but he made a decision he was going to, so he did. How are you living your life? Are you looking at resources before you make an irrevocable committed decision? Or are you actually looking at the real source of supply, which is inside? It's not outside, it's inside. When you make the decision and you commit yourself to it, the resources will show up if that's the problem. Always in that order. But you have to decide. Decide with everything, with every fiber in your being, with everything that you have. Move all in on the idea. Intellectually, emotionally, physically, log into it and create congruency between those three sides of your personality. And that's when everything starts to shift. All right. So there's a lot of mental blockages and illusions holding us back from what we really want in life. Lack of decision making is one of them. And sometimes you see people gambling on everything outside of them because they just don't know how to gamble on themselves. And sound decision making is one of those principles that I hope you'll get better at after watching this video. So I've identified 5 mind illusions that I believe hold most people back from the life that they want. And you can take a totally free quiz that's on our page here. I've linked to it below. There's a Danish version and an English version. Go through that, move through the quiz, and if you've taken it before, take it again, because your awareness has shifted and maybe you get a totally different outcome now, and there's something new that you have to work with and overcome. But that quiz enables you to identify one of those 5 illusions that are holding most people back. You'll get a complete PDF report about how that expresses itself in your life, and most importantly, what to do about it. And so I hope that this serves you. This is a very important topic, and it's not the last time we're going to be talking about it, but I felt like today was a good day to dig into it, because we've just did a virtual challenge for our Danish friends, and we had about 1,200 people signed up, and a lot of people made a decision to pursue their goals and their dreams, but a lot of people didn't. They're holding themselves back, and I know lack of decision making is at the core of it. So that was one of the reasons why I decided to make this for you today. It's not who you are that holds you back from anything you want in your life. There's perfection within you, my friend. What's holding most people back are all those illusions, those mind illusions about who you think you're not. So take that quiz, click below, and make sure you keep going on our channel here. We're going to link to some videos here in the end that will serve you on your journey moving forward. Bye for now.